questions or anything. So I will just share my screen and then we will get started. Great. So, hello everyone. My name's Jenny. I work at Play Scotland. I'm the Learning and Development Officer at Play Scotland. And currently I'm organising the Litter Pick and Play project. And I'm hopeful that's all why you're all here. You're interested in getting involved. So I'll just tell you a little bit about how this event's going to go. It's a quick event. We've left 45 minutes for it, but this presentation's only 20 minutes. And then there's space for questions at the end. So we'll get sharp back to whatever you would rather be doing on this. It's a very sunny morning here in Edinburgh. So yes, like I said, I will do a 20-minute presentation followed by a question and answer. You'll also get an email after this with a link to an evaluation survey, and you will also get an email tomorrow with resources, slides, and the recording. So what is this project? The Litter Pick and Play project is part of the International Play Association conference. So this is a conference that happens every 3 years, and this year it's coming to Glasgow. So it's really exciting that it's in Scotland. So for this conference, we've been planning this project, which is helping people get involved.
What's she doing in that river?
Get involved with the conference without having to attend. It's also part of a global movement for children's rights, and it is a participation project. And by that, I mean we would love you to participate and get involved in this project. So where did this project come from? Just a little bit of background. When we were developing the conference, we wanted to make sure that the themes came from children and young people. So we took inspiration from various consultations and projects that we've done in the past, including one called All Under the Same Sky and Moths to a Flame, which asked children to ruminate on what they thought the challenges were in regards to the environment and in regards to play. And as well as on the National Planning Framework 4 draft consultation and the Open Space Strategies and Play Sufficiency Assessment consultation. And both of those sound very dry, but they are very exciting pieces of legislation that we consulted with over 100 children and young people last year on what they wanted from their local spaces in terms of play and environment. And from all of these projects, we found that children had a concern about their local spaces. There were themes of litter and waste and anxiety around the climate crisis. So obviously this is a problem. Children and young people have identified that they don't have enough clean and safe spaces to play, which is in direct contrast to their right to play. Children under the UNCRC have a right to play and they have a right to a safe environment. However, many children face significant barriers in realising these rights. From natural disasters, which are to everyday issues, I'm talking about litter, I'm talking about pavement width and cars on the road. Public spaces are often unwelcoming and unsafe for children and young people to be in. And specifically for young people, they can be very unwelcoming. And we know from research that children who are already disadvantaged by disability, poverty, and other factors are disproportionately affected by substandard environment because they're less likely to have high quality indoor spaces or private outdoor spaces they can utilise, and also they're less likely to be able to access and properly utilise the outdoor spaces that do exist. So the aims of this project are to challenge this unsafe and unwelcoming environment for children and young people, and ensure that children and young people are supported to become champions of their right to play and their right to a safe environment. To do that, we're going to do a creation of a clean and safe space for children and young people to play, and to put pressure on local representatives to ensure that they are maintained. This is part of a global conversation happening right now about the right to play and the right to a safe environment. So who can get involved with our project? Well, like I said, it is a global movement, so everyone is invited to take part. We're looking for anyone who works with or volunteers or can organise groups of children and young people. So that's through schools, nurseries, youth clubs, community groups, or even your neighbours, your own children, your children's friends. We're really wanting everyone, as many people as possible, to get involved with the project. So what do I mean, get involved with the project? What actually would I like you to do? Well, we would love you to plan a litter pick and play event. And it's a bit of what it does on the tin. It says what it does on the tin. we'd then like you to do a litter pick and play event, and then we'd like you to shout about the fact that you have done one. So I'm just going to go through each of these steps one by one. And like I said, afterwards you will receive an email with all of the resources that will help you with each of these steps. But the first step is to plan. So we think it's really important that children and young people are leading on this project. We're not just asking children and young people to do free labour, we're asking them what area is affecting you, and let's work together to fix it. So we think children and young people should be the ones to pick the grot spot, or the place to have the litter pick and play. Through lots of different research with children and young people that we have done, we have found that children and young people can sometimes find it hard to think in the abstract about spaces. So especially with you're working with younger children, we would recommend maybe going for a walk around the local area, and children and young people can talk about which bits are nice, which bits aren't, which bits often have litter, and which bits don't. Or if you can't go for a walk, we would recommend using a map. So you can just print out a map from even Google Maps, and then maybe some pictures of the local play parks, and you can stick them on and put markers, you know, like this is where the school is, and like landmarks in your local area. And that will really help children get a sense of their local space and help them work out where they would like to pick. After you've picked your grot spot, the next step is to find out who the landowner is and contact them. So there's a really good bit in the Keep Scotland Beautiful resource, which I'll be sending out, which takes you through how to do that. Basically, you just get in touch with the local council, and 9 times out of 10, I mean 99 times out of 100 really, there won't be any issue with you doing a litter pick, as you are just providing a nice service to that area. The next step is to write a risk assessment. If you work with children and young people, you'll be very used to doing this, but we do have a template risk assessment in the toolkit. And of course, it's very important to update that with your specifics. For example, if you're picking on a beach or near a pond, you'd obviously have to add that in, and any risks specifically associated with the group you're working with or the space that you are in. The next step is to collect equipment, borrow, beg, please don't steal. And what I mean by that is most groups will be able to find equipment that already exists and is owned by a local group. So for example, when I planned a litter pick last year, I got in touch with the local Brownies and Girl Guides unit, and they had some litter pickers and they were very happy for us to borrow them. There's also, you know, community groups that might have them. For I live in Leith, and there's a Leith Walk volunteers group. They have litter pickers that you can borrow. So you can borrow them. If you can't borrow them from somewhere, if you can't find somewhere to get them, you can beg. Beg is probably the wrong word. It just worked in this little, I thought it was quite funny, maybe it isn't. Anyway, but lots of local businesses are normally happy to support with sort of small costs like this, especially if you're supporting the local area. So get in touch with local businesses and say, look, we'd like to buy some litter pickers. Is this something you can support us with? And yeah, don't steal them, but if you are still struggling to find equipment, then please do get in touch with me, and I'd be more than happy to talk you through some different options. And the last step in the planning stage is to advertise. So if you are doing a public litter pick, it's great to put the word out there. And when I say public, I mean not for a specific group. Different ways you can advertise are posting on social media, getting in touch with a local journalist, and putting posters up in local areas and landmarks like churches and supermarkets. The next step is actually to do it. Yeah, this is the exciting bit. So on the day, what we recommend you doing is putting on your protective equipment. So that's gloves sorry, that's just gloves. I don't know why I started like it was a list. And getting the bags and the litter pickers ready. We then think it's a great idea to assign some roles. So you might want to pick someone who's going to be in charge of taking photographs or taking videos. You might want to pick someone else who's in charge of first aid, these sort of roles. And again, because we want this project to be led by children and young people, we think it's a really good idea to to potentially give these roles to children and young people. So for roles like first aiding, you might find it better to match up a child with an adult with that qualification, but then they're both responsible for that. And that gives children a sense of responsibility and control over the event. And we definitely recommend taking a before picture. So before you've picked up any rubbish, take a big picture of the space. As later you'll be able to compare it to the after picture, which I always find so satisfying. The next step is to pick the litter and tidy the space. Anytime I've done this with children and young people, they have loved it so much. They haven't needed much encouragement at all. But if you wanted to include some playful elements into the litter picking, we do have some ideas in the toolkit. One of them is to sort of print out a checklist for people to try and find things. So depending on your age group, you might have pictures of different things they're looking for, just blocks of colour, they're looking for things of different colours, letters because they're looking for a bit of litter for each letter. The one thing I will say about those sort of checklists is just be very clear with children and young people that if it's not on the checklist, or if they already have something on the checklist from that category, they should still pick up the litter. They shouldn't just leave it there, because I have planned one litter pick before where that wasn't clear, and I ended up with children with only like 5 or 6 bits of rubbish in their bag because they said, well, I've already picked up a crisp packet, and they said crisp packet. So it's important to be really clear, especially if you're working with children who might take things a little bit more literally. Children and young people, while you're doing the litter pick, will most likely come up with their own games and ideas and ways to have fun. So it's important to let them follow that, so long as it's obviously still safe. And then once the space is tidied, it's really great idea to play some games in that space and have some fun and reclaim that space. You've cleaned that space up. The children and young people have cleaned that space up for themselves. So now it's time to let them play in it. And again, we think it's really important that children and young people decide what they want to be doing there. But if you wanted to do a big game of something where everyone's involved, you know, there's the classics of Tig and hide and seek and various things like that. There's also an option to get creative with what you are with what you've collected. So that could be arranging all the bags into, I don't know, like a big smiley face or something. Some people might want to take some of the rubbish out and make some art with the rubbish. I would definitely advise having some big buckets of soapy water on hand if you want to do that, and clean the rubbish first. And I'd be extra careful if you're working with children who have sensory issues. The smell of the rubbish can be very overwhelming. So even once it's cleaned, that might not be the best option for everyone. Once you've done the litter pick, once you've played in the space, it's really important to take some photos and take some videos. That before and after thing is an amazing thing to look at and to share with the children and young people what you've achieved. And it's also a good idea to take some little videos throughout the litter pick and sort of ask, maybe do some little interviews. And again, you could put a child or a young person in charge of this and interview the adults and the other children and say, you know, why is this important that we're doing this? Who should be doing this? Why are we doing this and not someone else, you know? And the last thing to do is to count up the bags of rubbish. It's really invigorating to see how much you've collected, and it is one of the questions we ask on the evaluation form, so it'd be really great if you could take a note of how many bags of rubbish you collect from your space. The last thing to do is to shout about it, and I think this step is really important because without it, what we've done is we've asked children and young people to do some free work, but with this step we've supported children and young people to become champions of their own rights, because we can engage children and young people in getting in touch with local journalists and getting in touch with local representatives and say, this space isn't good enough for us. We have a right to play and you have a responsibility to deliver that to us. We've taken it into our own hands on this occasion, but actually going forward, this is something you should be doing. So I think that's a really important step to be taking. Also, if you don't feel comfortable sharing it with journalists or local politicians, it's still good to share on social media, to share what you've done, and definitely tag us when you do that. And it would be amazing if you can fill in. We have a very short form that asks you to fill in a few questions about where the litter pick was, how many bags you collected, that sort of thing. Yes, if you fill that in, that would be amazing. So what are the benefits of getting involved? So of course you get a clean space to play in, which is great. And it's a fun activity for children and young people to do that's relatively low cost. You also become part of this global movement to realise children's rights and engage children in being guardians of their own environment, which I think is really important especially like I was saying at the start, with young people often feel unwelcome in public spaces, but once they've taken steps to make public spaces safer and nicer, they will then feel this much more entitled to the space that they have a right to, which I think is really important. You'll of course receive a certificate of participation to display from us, and additionally, if you're a group based in Scotland and you fill in our form and send us some photos, then we will enter you into a prize draw to win £100 worth of vouchers. And an added bonus is if you are a school or a nursery who's doing this project, this project counts as evidence towards Eco Schools Award because you are supporting the environment, but it also counts as evidence towards the Rights Respecting School Award because you're supporting the right to play and the right to a safe environment. So lots of really good reasons to get involved. My favourite one is just that it's actually quite fun. What is the timeline? So am I asking you to go out next week when we're supposed to have a snowstorm? Absolutely not. You can if you'd like. At Play Scotland, we think there's no such thing as bad weather. But you have until the 2nd of May to do the litter pick and submit the results to us. So if you wanted to just start planning now and do it in April when it might be nicer weather, that is totally fine. But I would just say that children, when they're doing litter pick, they tend not to get cold because they're moving around so much. So we're very happy to accept submissions from February litter picks as well. Once we've collected all of the submissions, we're then going to create a creative exhibition from it, and we'll be presenting the results at the International Play Association conference in June. So most of what I've spoken about is in our toolkit, and when it's not in our toolkit, it is in the Keep Scotland Beautiful toolkit. When you are doing this, if you do this litter pick, you can also submit to the Keep Scotland Beautiful Big Spring Clean. The projects are running parallel to each other and we are supporting each other through it. So if you wanted to put in for that as well, you absolutely can. You don't have to do it twice. Just one litter pick for both projects. Fantastic. So after this event, I'll be sending out the recording of my presentation, the slides, and both of these toolkits, which are really useful and take you again step by step through everything. The last resource, which I haven't actually put on here, is me. Hello. You can email me anytime and ask me for help, or if you have any questions, I'm really happy to help. This project is really exciting for me, so if you need any support at all, please do just let me know. So that is our Green Your Understanding of Article 31 Litter Pick and Play project. Thank you so much for listening. I should probably explain the name. I probably should have done that at the start. The name of the project, the official name is its Sunday name is A Greener Understanding of Article 31. Because we are hoping that to expand the understanding of the right to play and how that intersects with other rights, such as the right to a clean environment. But then it has a colon, litter pick and play, because we wanted to make it really clear what we were actually doing as well. So thanks so much for listening to my presentation. I feel like I've zoomed through that. No, it was 20 minutes exactly. Fantastic. I'm now going to stop sharing and I'm going to open up to questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute and ask them, or you can put them in the chat if you would prefer. But yes, happy to answer any questions about any of that, anything to do with the project, or how best to get involved. Does anyone have any questions at all? If you don't, this is a very short event, so but I'm happy to answer anything about practicalities or a little bit more about the reasoning.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Kimir. I'm Sheila. I'm from Inverness. I just recently became the team lead for an after-school club, out-school club. Now, the areas I would possibly be able to litter pick, there may not be a lot of litter. There will be litter, but not a lot. So I'm thinking, well, there may not be very many bags, but I'd still like to take part. It's just the logistics of it and getting the children, because obviously out of school, there's not parents. The parents are working and things like that. Is that feasible?
Absolutely. So it doesn't matter if there's not much litter in your bags. I think what's really important is taking the children into the space and sort of showing them that it's theirs and that they can use it and they can take ownership of it. If you report back to us you filled 1 bag, that is absolutely fine. If you report back to us you filled 100 bags, it's also fine. That is totally fine. And in terms of a trip, I don't know if you've done this in the past, but we've often asked for parent volunteers to come along if you're needing extra hands, or teachers from the school and things like that, if you wanted to make a sort of collaborative approach to what you were doing, if you needed extra adult supervisors.
I will. Well, we're going to try and do my best with that, but as I say, it's time.
Of course, yeah.
Everybody's just it's just doing so much now, as you know.
Absolutely.
But I am going to look into it and talk to the children and see where I go with this. But thank you very much.
That's
your
perfect.
help.
Thank you for the question, Sheila. There's another question in the chat from Alina, so thank you for the question. And it says, who should we contact to collect all the litter? So that is really good question. In the Keep Scotland Beautiful resource, there is a bunch of information about how best to go about disposing of the litter. It's really good. Is obviously you should identify where the litter is going to go after you have before you have collected it. So there's lots of information in there, and obviously it will differ between local authorities and sometimes even within local authorities, which is obviously really helpful, but we all know how the council works sometimes. So yes, if you have a look in the toolkit, that should explain that for you. Often in parks there are bins, people just haven't used them, so you're welcome to use bins actually within parks themselves. Another question from Zoe. Thank you for the question, Zoe. Any suggestions on how to promote and incorporate this with babies 0 to 2 years, as it's important we start young with these things, but find a lot of info in the toolkits for either school age or preschool? Absolutely. So it is, people can assume that it is more difficult to
area, isn't it?
So different ways to do it are to have still take a trip to the local space and use the similar methods. So we're creating a play space in their local area that they are entitled to. And with some 2-year-olds, they'll be happy to pick up litter and put it in the bin. And with babies, you can help them do it. You can investigate the litter. Obviously, it is tricky if it's dirty, but you can clean hands afterwards. We've just got to avoid that into mouth situation, as we all know, but that's the same inside and outside, I would find. So yeah. The next question is from Rena. So thank you for the question, Rena. If we are going walks through the woods instead of a particular area, which is a free area on a walk, would this be okay? Absolutely. A walking litter pick can be a really nice way to do it. And especially if you do sort of like a looped walk, so then on the way back you can play in the nicely cleaned area. That works really well. But absolutely, on a walk, this would work really well in that sort of area as well. Great. Does anyone else have any other questions? I'm happy to. I'll be here until 11:15 answering as many questions as you have. But if you have all you need, then you're also welcome to pump off the call. As I'll send off.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah, please do.
Hiya, I've just actually put it in the chat. It's just, if we're going a walk, we take the kids to walk through the woods and stuff like that, because we don't have a lot of litter in our area either. So is this okay just to use that as a case that it would be tidying up their walking areas, not necessarily their playing areas or whatever?
Absolutely. So when I say play spaces, I mean anywhere children could play. And I think we all know that children don't just play in parks. On the walk to the park, they're playing. On the walk to school, they're playing. So absolutely, a walking area tidy up definitely fits within this, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm really thankful for you all coming to the, another question before I start to wrap up. I'm a PT for an ELC setting within West Lothian, and I'm a member of West Lothian Litter Pickers. One of our parents is also a member of that group. Can we get them involved too, or should it just be the children and staff? So that is a really great question. Again, it is entirely up to you. I think a collaborative approach would be really amazing. I think so long as we're making sure that children and young people are leading the decision, so where are we picking litter and what we're doing after we pick the litter in that space, then it's totally a great idea to get involved with people who are already picking litter, especially as they'll already have all the equipment, and you might only have to adjust risk assessments to include the large number of children, young people that you would have. But I think getting them involved sounds like a really great idea. And yes, I think that's the answer to that question. Sorry, I'm trying to read the questions at the same time as answering them. Yeah, so thank you for the question. Yes. Of course, you would just have to use the same sort of risk assessment, and if you needed disclosure checks for any of the adults, if you would normally do that within your setting, then you would do that with these adults as well. But thank you so much for attending, everyone. If there aren't any more questions, then feel free to pop off the call, and I hope you have a really lovely rest of your day. But if anyone else has a question, please just go for it. Well, I'm really happy that you all came, and thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited that people are interested in doing the project, and I'm really excited to see all your photos and videos and hear back from what you all thought of the project. Thanks again for coming, and yeah, have a good rest of your day.